Welcome back to another edition of the Blog Boy Roundtable presented by the Bay Area Examiner. I am joined by Anthony Vito, Robert Stieg, Nathan Bond of the Bay Area Examiner. I am Seth Barnador. And we also have Nick Simon of DraftKings Network. Boys, a pretty good week last week. Nobody had a losing week. You had 3 3-1s and a couple 2-2s in there. Record right now, knock on wood, is pretty good, 47-33 for the year. And we had some big games last week. We all picked FSU to cover 2.5. Were we fortunate to cover that one? What do you guys think?
Quite possibly. I mean, a kicker could have completely changed that for Clemson, and I feel really bad for that kid who, was probably en route to a job in New York, and he decided to come off the bench, and yikes, I just can't imagine. But, I mean, Keon Coleman.
Yeah, Nathan and I were in the press box, and we were kind of talking in the game. We're like, are they going to try to set up for a kick for this dude that just got cleared for contact today? And that's exactly what they did.
I mean, of all the choices, that's got to be at the very bottom of the ones you actually want to do. Like, they truly set up to kick a game-winning, what was it, like a 41-yard field goal? Like, it wasn't even a chip shot. Like, it was, oh, man.
We've got a special guest here.
That boy.
Oh, wow. The crew is finally all here. Colin, we're talking Florida State, Clemson. We all picked Florida State to cover the 2.5. Do you think we were fortunate?
Yeah. Two this week that I was really trying to figure out whether I got the best of it or not. I think I was wrong about Ohio State. I had Ohio State -3. Obviously 2.5 would have been fine, but I think I got that wrong. I think that was just a coin flip game, and I probably shouldn't have laid the 3. With Florida State, it's closer, but I think they just didn't get a call. Like, so many of those jump balls to Coleman, and there were a couple holds in there. Like, if you go back and watch the tape, it seems like Clemson got like every freaking call. So that was a little bit closer. I think on the numbers, yeah, you'd say 50-50, but if you actually watch the game, probably a little bit closer to being right and just being a little unlucky.
Nick, what were your thoughts?
I mean, like you just mentioned, those jump ball passes, like all game, like just spamming. And when you have those dudes, it's eventually. I mean, it's not a bad strategy when you have those dudes like Keon Coleman. Eventually, like one of them's gonna break and prove the difference for that FSU team. Man, they could go to distance in ACC play. Like, that was their biggest hurdle or one of their biggest hurdles so far. And yeah, that team's going places, man.
Yeah, it was passing a big test, right? They hadn't beaten Clemson in 7 years. Now, like, on the other side of it, it certainly looked like Clemson was going in to score to go up 14, which the way their defense was playing probably wins the game. But Florida State, great call on the blitz, great execution. The guy picks up the fumble, houses it, and then a whole new ball game. So that was a fun one to watch there at noon. The next one was fun, depending, I guess, on what side you were on. And it was also the biggest game of the weekend in terms of viewership. Colorado at Oregon. We were somewhat split. Stieg and I both took Oregon -21. Nate was hoping for that backdoor with Colorado, and Colorado did not do its part for the over for Nick and Vito. I thought they would score a little more, but man, Oregon came out seemingly to prove a point there.
Oh yeah, they had an agenda. Let me tell you something. After they posted that video with what was said on the Colorado players saying it to the Oregon staff members is just wild.
That's tough.
Like, I'm all like, I've been around it. I've been on those sidelines before. I know there's a lot of chirping, a lot of chatting and everything like that. But on a grown man that you're going to knock him out, a strength coach, ooh, buddy, you better not lose at that point.
I also wouldn't have gone with you're too small. Would not have been one of my choices if I was a Colorado player. When you look at the Colorado defense, Nick, you had the over. just do you think the Colorado offense is being figured out a little bit, or it's just that they're so bad up front?
They're just so bad up front. I went with the over because I figured Oregon would handily beat them, but I just thought like, okay, Shador, Jimmy, Xavier Weaver, you're gonna put up at least 28 points in this game, and they just got ran off the field, man. That was just bad. It clearly illustrated, okay, this is still a rebuild. Like, for all the glitz and glamour and hype that Colorado has, there's still an actual rebuilding process for this program, and the hardest thing is to shore up those lines. And yeah, they could be in for they won't go over for the rest of the way, but they could be in for some rough games, especially this one coming up this weekend. Like,
yeah, another big spread. They do get both the Arizona schools and Stanford, so you might be able to get some of those. And if you get all those, you make a bowl game, which like is a huge accomplishment for what Dion inherited there. Nathan, if you heard the pregame speech before you made your pick, would that have changed your pick from Dan Lanning? Because it seemed like kind of the back door was, and I struggled with that too. I almost took Colorado as well because I thought they'd kind of be able to creep in the back door there, but the motivation seemed to be high for Oregon.
Yeah, wish I had seen that prior to making the pick. Right. I mean, it's the opposite of a couple weeks ago when Phil Cherkovich basically just called out fans for booing him for completing like 4 passes. It's just the opposite of that. Like, it would have completely swung my thought process. And I mean, we knew Oregon was good. I figured they'd win. I thought, backdoor it maybe. But yeah, it was padlocked and then like nailed shut. And then there was cement and some bricks. It was like
the old cartoon, like the octopus, just
right. Like it was over before it started.
Yeah,
I think that was one of those where if you're watching that, covering Pac-12 a little more than I am, and you're seeing beat writers and you trust beat writers, and you're seeing things from people close to the program, that's one of those where that's a game where you can just pick it up, because if you had known that it meant that much to that team to do that they were going to dunk on them, that they weren't going to back off, that they were going to keep it full. I mean, I didn't want to lay more than 21. You know what I mean? That's 3 scores. I don't want to lay more than that if I don't have to.
Yeah.
But if I had seen, practice that week, if I heard the rhetoric, if I had some insight into that program, I think that's one where you just very casually lay up to like 27 and go, not a problem, because they're on dunk. And I think Shador, like, it's so unfortunate for Shador. That line just in front of him is not very good. That kid's a stud. That kid
very good.
is just legitimately really, really good at football, but their defense is just terrible. And when a team can pin its ears back against Colorado, they're going to get boat raced. They might make some moves on USC though. I don't know if you saw that USC defense against Arizona State, but there was let's just say there were some tackling issues. I was up very late watching that one.
Thanks a lot, Arizona State. It kept me up till 2 a.m. just to lose.
Kenny, I mean, the game in the fourth quarter, and the spread was 34, and it was very much a football game. And Dillingham, he did all the right things. He took the shot. He went on sides early. He took a crazy onside try. He was playing to win. Which you like to see. I like the future of that Arizona State team. I think they got the right coach. I think they got a great quarterback too that they paid good money for. But in the long run, they're gonna
not quite UF money.
I think USC Colorado this week could just be up and down, and this could be a lot of points. Like 80 points would not surprise me at all.
My question is, do you think this Colorado, just kind of, Vito, what do you think? Seeing how Oregon kind of responded to the Colorado stuff. Now, I'd imagine the trash talk maybe dies down a little bit from Colorado players, but it certainly seemed like this isn't a game. I think Bud Elliott made this point too, that it's not like this is not you're going to get everyone's best effort now just because of how many eyeballs you're going to get. Does that kind of change, what you think of kind of this USC Colorado game, where maybe in the past it would be like a look ahead spot?
Yeah, I think everybody really wants to show what they can do against this Colorado team, especially getting all the attention that they're doing. I mean, everyone would. There was an outlet saying, "Oh, everybody else helped Dan Lanning coach this game and figure out how to beat Colorado." But I mean, Dan Lanning. I mean, he's got that bulldog in him. You know, he was national championship winning defensive coordinator. He knows what's going on. All I got to say from this past one: 522 to 199 total yards in favor of Oregon, 30 to 13 first downs. Like that's all you need to know. I think everyone's has a little more juice on Colorado. They want to beat them. They want to show that, hey, you know, there's a reason why we're the top of the Pac-12 and why the Pac-12 is so impressive. But I think that also shows you, like, that's what the Deion effect can do. He brought in the guys. He turned this team from a one-loss team to a legitimately good team. Now, not a playoff contender like Oregon's trying to be, but I think that's going to get everyone's extra effort. But to Colin's point, yeah, I think this Colorado team could probably put up the points that we thought they would do against Oregon. Shame on us for thinking they'd do over 71, 72. I thought it'd be more of a fun game like that, but they might do that against USC. I don't think they're going to win, but USC has the defense or has the defensive deficiencies that may allow for like a Xavier Weaver or a Jimmy Horn to get in space.
Yeah. Is Dan Lanning appropriating Kirby Smart's accent for his pregame speeches? Dan Lanning's from Missouri. There was a lot of drawl in that pregame speech. I think he's dipping into the Kirby stuff a little too much, but it worked pretty well for him last week, and they look to be a really good team. So
it's
right,
like you go to a foreign country for 2 weeks and pick up the accent.
Little Brad Friedel-esque.
As an aside, Colorado better not become this like humble team like that. That's not who Deion is.
I don't think that
this one ass whooping better not be the thing that changes them, because if they do, they're going to be in for a long, long season.
Just let him play USC tight.
Yeah,
just see what happens.
Keep talking your shit. Eventually, either it'll turn or you'll just, you know, was it Randy Marsh? I didn't say we were done.
I didn't hear no bell.
I didn't hear no bell.
Like so.
Bro,
that's really what it boils down to.
They're gonna have Jay-Z and LeBron in the house on Saturday. Like, you can't just suddenly become this humble team overnight.
Yeah, no.
You gotta keep going.
They're not gonna put their names on like the top of the jersey in like a cursive, like or mechanics or something like that.
Right.
And they're gonna have Wheezy. Wheezy's coming back for another week, so they take the big loss and Wheezy sticks with it. I respect it. You know, I think that's huge, especially because, you know, Buffalo.
Big win right there.
Crazy.
All right, let's move on to this week. So we are starting, we just finished talking about a Pac-12 game. We're starting with another Pac-12 game for now. This will be, I guess it won't be a Big 12 game because Oregon State's not coming. You got Utah at Oregon State. Oregon State is a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is at 44.5. Nick, what are you thinking in this one? Oregon State's coming off a loss to Washington State. Utah just keeps grinding people into a pace. It seems like. What's your pick here? What's your lean?
I'm leaning towards Utah here. Pick against them. You know, Cam Rising or no Cam Rising. That's been the question for the Utes all season long, and it hasn't really mattered because, like you just mentioned, this team just continues to grind people down. They're perfectly comfortable winning ugly in any environment. It's going to be cool and chilly, you know, in Corvallis this weekend. It's going to even get down into like the low 40s, which perfect. Like, again, pick against Utah at your own risk. This team, again, that's going to be we just talked about Colorado and all these teams getting up to play them. Man, that is, oh man, the things that they're going to do to that Colorado offensive line. But for this game, give me Utah to cover here.
Yeah, this is definitely obviously the spread has this kind of a toss up ish game. Steve, which way do you lean here? You're on fire still.
This one's going straight off the vibes. Oregon State, no particular reason. I tend to favor Pac-12 home teams. I don't know what it is about that that the country. I know in some instances it pays off, some instances it doesn't. But I have this growing gut feeling that Oregon State has a big old chip on their shoulder and this disdain towards some of these Pac-12 defectors. Utah being one of those that's kind of started that domino effect of now we have the Pac-2. I think they've got a little bit more to play for here, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I got Oregon State winning here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be with you, Steeg, not just because you're the hottest better going right now. Just a home game. I think that's important. Utah has played once on the road this year. They played at Baylor, won 20-13. This Oregon State team is a lot better than that Baylor team. And I think the home field advantage is probably a lot better in Corvallis than it is in Waco. And, Oregon State's metrically, they're a pretty good team by a lot of the advanced numbers. Utah is as well, but their offense is not. So I think Oregon State can put enough together offensively, and their defense is good enough to really slow down Utah, in my opinion, and they're the home team. This is one where I'm kind of would be probably leaning towards the home team just because it seems like one of those type of series. But I'm going to go with Oregon State as well. Nate, where are you leaning here?
I'm taking Utah. I don't think Oregon State is quite good enough. You kind of saw it against Washington State and gave up 38 points. I think Cam Ward's probably the best of the Cams that they'll face over the next couple of weeks. But I think Cam Rising's still halfway decent.
I don't think he plays. Do you Colin, what's your take based on the line?
Yeah. So as somebody who got burned last week, because I ended up with I saw the move and I saw it go to Utah -6, and I went, well, I guess he's playing, so I better grab it now. He doesn't play, kicks it 3.5, and I'm like, well, that sucks. Didn't matter. I still covered, but this one's tough for me. So if you go by FPI, the Beavers are actually a half point ahead on a neutral field. And if you go by SP Plus, the Utes are a point ahead on a neutral field. So 3.5 seems right to me on the road. That, maybe 3. I probably, honestly, I'd lean points just like on a math basis, but I ain't betting against Utah. I mean, they're just so good. And let's face it, they're going to force Ugalele into a mistake. I mean, it's going to happen. Yeah. That defense is just going to force a turnover at some point, maybe more than one. And you don't bet against Utah in fourth quarters. I mean, just never. No, I mean, I don't care. There's no amount of money that I'm going to ever put. I don't care how many points you give me. I'm never betting against Utah in the fourth quarter the way they're just so efficient the way they run the ball.
I think Washington State was probably the first team that Oregon State's played that had a pulse, and they were able to get pointsy with them. San Diego State, historically, I mean, I think that ship has sailed. They're just never going to be good on offense, literally ever again. And then San Jose State, same. The first team they played with a pulse, they gave up 38, and I think we can agree Utah's defense is stout and good enough to stop a quarterback who threw for a 50% completion percentage last week. I just don't think DJ is it.
And that very well, they could put him in the Anaconda Vice like they did UCLA's young quarterback last week, and it could be that. Vito, where are you leaning here? We've got a kind of a mixed bag here so far.
This is a really good game to pick because consensus is Utah's going to put you in a blender and they're going to win a game like this. It is on the road on a Friday. That is a very strange place to be at Oregon State. Oregon State probably wants to prove that what happened against Washington State isn't a repeat thing. And of course they want to play. They have a chip on their shoulders against these teams that are leaving. They can get pointsy. Utah can't. And we haven't seen them with Cam Rising, but if Rising doesn't play, they pretty much need that Utah defense to play strong. And if they don't, where are they getting the points from? And that's kind of the question. Nate Johnson, I get can move the ball, but Utah's only put up their highest point total is 31 against Weber State, 20 against Baylor in that win. UCLA, they only won 14-7. I think Oregon State's going to be able to put enough points and with their rushing attack, do what they need to do to get enough points to beat Utah, to get past that threshold of being put in a blender by Utah. I think the added chip on their shoulder is where to go. And Nate, I really like how you called them the Cams, because Cam Ward and Cam Rising, by goodness, I always forget which one's which at any given point in time. But really just comes, can DJ Uiagalelei come up with some magic again, and make some plays? And I think that'll be the answer there. But this is a good game to pick. I like Oregon State in this one.
All right, Colin, did you were thinking Utah? Was that what you were thought?
Yeah, I just because I have the hook. I'm going to lean that way. If it wasn't, if it was 3 instead of 3.5, I'll probably stay away. But with the hook, I'll take it. And yeah, I agree. Friday nights in Corvallis can get super duper weird, but I do believe that Utah has scored on their opening drive every game this season. I think they've scored touchdown on their opening drive. And when they play from a lead, they're just really, really tough. So I don't know. This one's tough, but give me the 3.5. And Kyle Whittingham is he's one of the best coaches to bet on, because you just feel so comfortable in second halves and in fourth quarters when you have a lead that he's just going to sit on someone's head.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really good coaching matchup. I think both staffs are really good, but yeah, Whittingham's been at it for a while and they're just so well coached.
There's some really good teams. There's some really good betting teams. These are 2 really good betting teams that really cover with really good staff. Smith is a great coach too.
Yeah.
Look at San Jose State's another one. Just another team that just plays really smart, really thoughtful football.
All right, moving on to the next game. We picked the game involving one of these teams last week. We picked we're going on to LSU at Ole Miss. LSU is currently a 2.5-point favorite. Last week, I picked Alabama -7. Vito and Nick both were under the 55.5. After they picked that, I thought I kind of wish I would have picked that instead, and that was, you guys nailed that. And Lane Kiffin was doing a lot of talking last week, but it didn't seem to back it up. Now, once you start going back through Ole Miss's schedule, they beat a bad Georgia Tech team. They beat Tulane without Michael Pratt and kind of struggled at times in that game. And last year, they ended the year on like a crazy long losing streak, didn't they? So is Ole Miss on fraud alert? Are they busters?
Exactly that's exactly what I wrote down. I think this Ole Miss team is a little bit fraudulent, a lot of it fraudulent. Like last week was your one chance to beat Nick Saban, and your offense was rendered obsolete. This Ole Miss team, when I look at this Ole Miss team, they were held to 3.7. Hold on. They were. They were. It's concerning with this team when you have one of the best preseason running backs in Quinshon Judkins in the SEC, and he's been just a non-factor. It's been very strange, like watching him struggle to get to 60 yards per game. And then you're now facing an LSU team that held Arkansas to 3.7 yards per carry last week. Yeah, give me LSU here. Again, like I said, this Ole Miss team, fraudulent. Lane Kiffin, he's been wanting to leave Oxford for a big boy job for a long time, buddy. You're going to be stuck in Oxford forever. Give me LSU here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking LSU minus the 2.5 as well. The Florida State, the defense hasn't been great, but I think some of that's inflated by just kind of Florida State just rolling, catching fire, and just kind of when they really have it going, they're really tough to stop. I think LSU's ran to a buzzsaw that second half, but the LSU offense is really good. I don't trust Ole Miss. 2.5. I think the LSU defense with those 2 big defensive tackles down there can, like you kind of mentioned, that can kind of render the rushing game a little obsolete. And then Jackson Dart's going to have to throw to a bunch of guys that haven't been playing a ton. Like Zachary Franklin's not, I think last week might have been his first game of the year. So, maybe they get those guys rolling, but that's a very beatable Alabama team, as we saw. And I think LSU has a lot more talent, especially at the skill position. So this is one that maybe could get pointsy if LSU's back in, can't hang on, but I think the LSU offense is the best unit by far. So I'm going to roll with them. Vito, what are you thinking on this one?
Man, this is a tough one. And it's very strange to me that Ole Miss is favored on FPI, because I don't see it. I'm kind of with you guys. I think that Ole Miss might be on fraud alert. They haven't really showed that they can go ahead and take the reins. I'm outside of like wins against Mercer, I believe, 73-7. And I mean, they walloped on Georgia Tech. But this game is so weird. I think LSU should be able to win this. I'm going to take them -2.5 at the moment. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be Malik Neighbors, and I think they're going to be able to do enough on offense. And I'm hoping Harold Perkins comes out and plays like the player he should be, and should be able to cause Jackson Dart and Quinshon Judkins to have have some issues on offense. So I like LSU -2.5. I still don't understand how FPI has Ole Miss with the 56.5% rate to win. That feels very strange to me, but LSU, I like them a little bit better. I trust Brian Kelly a little bit better right here in the spot.
Yeah, I think the LSU defense is really bad. Like the EPA and all those kind of metrics are not great for them, but I think their offense is really good. Nathan, where are you leaning on this one?
LSU. I think Ole Miss is, like you said, they're frauds. This was your one shot right here at a weaker than normal Alabama team, and you gave up more points to them than USF did. Like, is that really who we're supposed to be trusting against an LSU team who's starting to figure it out and they're recruiting well, and for all of his faults and his implosions, Brian Kelly's actually a pretty good coach. I'm going to trust him over the brain hive of Kiffin and Charlie Weis Jr., the Nepo babies. So yeah, give me LSU in the 2.5.
Brutal.
Steve.
Top rope.
Steve, where you, if his name was Lane Jones, would he have this many jobs? I don't know.
No, he would still be somewhere on the tarmac.
Oh boy.
Steve, where are you leaning?
I'm with everyone else. I'm leaning towards LSU. I think one other X factor in this is looking at. I mean, we've eclipsed the 4-week mark, and this is kind of the telltale sign of where a team is mentally. You'll start noticing some players into the transfer portal starting this week, going into next week as well. A lot of these guys are trying to preserve red shirts and trying to keep themselves in the right position. There's some teams that are having some guys bail. And some teams like UConn who had a few guys enter the portal. Ole Miss had, I think, 3 guys enter the portal, and then another guy is no longer with the team. Usually a pretty good sign if you're in week 4 and you've got guys that are like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. No problem. Especially at an SEC school like that where, the fortune can turn in favor pretty quickly. So I think mentally Ole Miss is not there. I think that there's a lot of issues with how Lane handled the offseason last year. I don't feel like he rebuilt the program very well or rebuilt anything there. So, yeah, just give me LSU. I think 2.5 points is just because it's being played in Oxford. And for some godforsaken reason, it's a difficult play.
Yeah, Colin, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I don't like this game at all. I think this LSU.
We put the pressure on you on this show. We pick all the best matchups, not our favorites, unfortunately.
You look at the numbers from LSU Arkansas last week, and that's a coin flip game, which really it shouldn't be. I mean, KJ Jefferson's been in college for a long ass time, but to allow him to, I mean, LSU got 426 yards. If they don't commit 2 turnovers, I think they're in trouble. Those were both picks that they forced on Jefferson. Are you going to be able to get picks on Jackson Dart? Probably, but the yardage numbers, if LSU's holding you to 3.7 yards per rush and they're not running away with the game, how's that happen? You know what I mean? That's sort of what makes it interesting is they hold Arkansas to 3.7, yards per carry, and they get 2 turnovers, and they still struggle. So, those are the things to look at. I do agree that the metrics on this one have these teams basically tied, but it certainly seems like the betting community is just completely ignoring home field and laying the 2.5, forcing the 2.5 on the road. I'm going to think this probably opened 3 at Circa and is now bet down to 2.5. I would think that the wagering public might fire this up to 3 pretty close here. If Jackson Dart is your quarterback, that means Jackson Dart is your quarterback. And, he's going to make some mistakes. It's a big game at home. The whole thing about Lane having checked out, I think, is something that's become a narrative at this point, and I think it might be hard for him to sustain and keep this going. This is kind of where he got to at LSU. LSU got a bit of an excuse because they were down 20 scholarships or whatever it was.
Or USC rather.
Or USC, excuse me.
Yeah.
When they lost 20 scholarships and he got the ban hammer. So the first couple of years he got kind of exempt, and then it got a little wonky there in year 4, and look what happened. He got tarmacked. So he just might be running out of gas here, and that could be a problem. So we'll see. But again, this isn't a game that I love. It's probably one of those where it's like 2.5, I'll take the road team. 3, I'll take the home team. Or excuse me, flip it.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our last game here. Then we'll go off the board. Another game we picked last week, and we had it at Ohio State -3. So we all got to experience the greatest push in South Bend since Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart were on the field together. 4 of us at Ohio State -3. Steve had Notre Dame +3. It was a nice push. Were any of you surprised by Notre Dame's performance? They're a 5.5-point favorite at Duke. Totals at 52. Was that a surprising performance? I thought the Ohio State offense would be able to move the ball a little bit better. So their defense surprised me a little bit.
I was surprised they played the last couple plays a man down, if we're being honest.
Apparently that happened earlier in the year on one play. So
oh my God. I was absolutely shocked. Notre Dame showed that they can play. And I was also just impressed with Ohio State and Kyle McCord, who orchestrated that final drive. I mean, winning on a walk-off like that when anything could happen, in that spot in prime time. I mean, what an incredible ending that was. But Notre Dame showed to me that they can play and they can compete at this level against a playoff contender and a powerhouse. Like in years past, it seems like a Brian Kelly team like that would lose by 20 or, make it close at the end, but not really. So I was surprised by that on Notre Dame.
Was that the same end zone as the Bush push? I think it was, right?
Yes.
Unless they changed the
yes. Unless they changed the camera angle, yes.
Yeah, that's a cursed end zone.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so
is that also the same end zone of Kayvon Webster's scoop and score?
I think it might have been. Yeah, I think so.
That's the one Kayvon scored in. Because I was at that game, and
that's where it started.
Okay.
He crossed the goal line. No, I guess it wouldn't have started there. So,
which side's touchdown Jesus? Is that the opposite end zone? Ah, okay.
So, do we think, did this tell you more about Notre Dame or Ohio State?
I think it kind of shows. Oh, go ahead, Colin. You go ahead, buddy.
I'm sorry. I think it showed more about Notre Dame. I think they're pretty good, and I also think Ohio State's just got ball movement issues. Like I think this is a very good Ohio State team that's not good enough. Penn State's going to give them some problems too. It's not just going to be Michigan this year. I think that game gets super interesting at this point. You can get after this. You can get after this team and quarterback. They're going to make some mistakes, put them under pressure. Amazing to me that there were no turnovers in this game. It blew me away that both of these teams were able to not turn the ball over more frequently with as much pressure as the defenses were getting, with the inability of Ohio State to run the ball.
And not a ton of negative plays, not a ton of tackles.
Yeah.
Either. Just kind of
just really like, all right, we're going to give you 2 yards. All right, 3rd and long, throw the ball, punt, a lot of that. And I thought it was, I think it showed a lot of flaws. I do think this was a coin flip game. I laid the 3. I did it strictly because I saw the bet splits, and the sharp play was clearly to be on the Ohio State side. All of the betting community, the sharper betting community, was on Ohio State. So I basically tailed it. I didn't love it, but I was like, maybe I'm missing something here. So I tailed it and I got bailed out.
Nathan, do you think this shows us more about Ohio State or Notre Dame?
I was just kind of echoing what Colin said. I think they're a lot better than probably I expected coming into the season. I think having a legitimate quarterback with Sam Hartman, I love having competent quarterbacks at the college level, and I think he's competent enough to kind of get the job done. So probably the best quarterback they've had, honestly, in quite some time. Brady Quinn maybe was probably their last actually good college quarterback.
Jimmy Clausen.
Ian Book erasure.
Ian Book.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do the rest of the year. it's a pretty tough slate. I think they have USC in a couple weeks. They're at Louisville next week, Pitt, the Clemson game in November. November is going to be kind of easy for them. At Clemson, home for Wake. That'll be an interesting game. And then you close out at Stanford. So get through
Nick,
October.
Nick, what were your thoughts on just Ohio State Notre Dame? Kind of a heavyweight battle, an old school. Somebody said this is a big. I saw someone on Twitter say this is a Big Ten West game if the teams were super talented. This is what it would look like.
I also saw, I forgot who said it, but this was like the best, probably one of the best 17, like big time, like 17-14 type of games that you'll see between two heavyweight programs. But yeah, kind of echoing what you guys said, this is, even though they lost and they obviously had the embarrassing 10-man on the field fiasco for both plays, Notre Dame acquitted themselves well. I think Marcus Freeman has this program basically like going in the right direction. Like any concerns about him not being able to duplicate what Brian Kelly was able to do for all those years. I think he has his program going into the right direction, and obviously being able to go toe-to-toe with a team like Ohio State that regularly plays in these big-time games like this, shows that they're on the cusp of still being a playoff contender consistently.
Well, this week, Notre Dame travels to play at Duke. They are a 5.5-point favorite. This is the game of the week. The over-under is at 52. Stieg, what are you thinking in Notre Dame Duke?
I feel like you picked me first because you wanted to see how I want to pick this one.
No.
And maybe pick
I'm
with or against it.
I'm a man of morals.
I saw this one post after the whole 10-man debacle that happened, and this wasn't the first that had happened this year, because it happened earlier this year, I think, against Middle Tennessee, or was it Tennessee State? So it to me that's kind of glaring. Like mental mistakes happen in games sometimes, but for that to happen twice where you're not subbing properly on defense, especially in a high profile game like that. I mean, it's the same thing that's happening with Florida when it comes to their teams right now. Like, once is okay, once is a mistake. Twice, we're looking at a trend now in college football. And to me, that's glaring for Notre Dame, because that's mental mistakes like that cannot happen for a team who has built such a good standing kind of juncture at this point under Mark Freeman. So I'm taking Duke to pull off the upset here. I think I really like what Belko is doing this entire year. I think that Clemson win is just kind of the tip of the iceberg for how he's built up his Blue Devils there. He's going to be that hot name for a lot of teams, and a lot of schools are going to be, vying for his services when like a Jimbo Fisher gets canned, or even at Sparty. So yeah,
Michigan State might come calling soon.
Yeah, they'll call. They're going to call him.
Let's go with Vito. Where do you, or Colin? Do you got what? Jump in here, Colin. What do you got?
I was going to say, we talked about 10 men. Does anybody remember when Skip did this? Had 10 men on the field on defense 2 plays in a row? Skip Holtz did this while at USF.
Was his excuse the same, that he didn't want to get the penalty?
That it was red zone. I do remember it was red zone.
I tell you what worries me a little bit. Now, it's one thing learning from your mistake, but like spending practice time to install a signal to have the corner jump off sides if this ever happens again. It's like, all right, yeah, fix it, but let's not spend too much time. Don't dwell
overreaction the other direction.
Yeah, don't dwell on this too much. Just go, I guess. Colin, do you have a lean in the game?
Yeah, tell me if Jalen Coleman's going to play. Had 3 carries for 8 yards last week. I think he's the factor here for Duke. They're going to need him if they're going to be able to find a way to move the ball on the ground. That's going to be interesting. Looking at injury report right now, I'm seeing Thomas is questionable for Notre Dame, but Duke is not even listing Coleman as a possible injury. He had not played until the UConn game last week, and then they only had him out there for 3 carries, which kind of makes sense when you're playing UConn. So I'm going to assume he's going to be full go. 5.5, 52.5. This opened 2. And the fact that, it went to 4 like immediately, and now it's at 5.5. If I can get 6 here, I'll probably grab the Dukies. Some weird stuff happened at Wallace Reed. I think Mike Elko is probably going to be a candidate for every freaking job in America here pretty soon. I think they're going to need to pony up to keep him out of Michigan State or some other places. He's really done a fantastic job there. Team doesn't make a lot of mistakes either. Duke is just really fundamentally disciplined. You saw what they did to Clemson. They just stayed with it, grinded it in the fourth quarter, like pulled away. Watch Clemson make mistakes, and I watched them boot it. Notre Dame doesn't make a ton here. I think this one's super interesting. If it gets to 6, I'll probably grab Duke.
What's this line if Clemson doesn't fumble twice going into the end zone and they win that game? How much do you think that win is kind of contributing to
it's technically, if you go by the, especially SP Plus really factors that out a lot. They've got Duke as a plus 14.6 anyway, which is really solid. So I don't think it makes a huge difference. And Notre Dame actually lost some ground this week. They're at 19.7. So if you go by just the pure numbers, 5, that's 5.3 point difference. They're basically giving no home field advantage for Wallace Wade. And I think that's probably not right. Like, I've been to games there. Look, man, that place is going to be rocking. It's going to be the biggest football game in the history of Duke. Like, they're going to show up. Like, it's going to be it's not a great facility for that, but it's, I'll give them half a point or a point for that. So yeah, give me the 6.5. I'll grab it.
Yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame minus 5.5. I just, I think the only worry is the letdown from last week emotionally, but when you're this high profile of a game, you think you'd be able to get back up for it, especially with the veteran quarterback. Notre Dame's defense really I just went back and looked. Ohio State had like a 33% success rate on offense last week. They really probably should not have won that game. So I'll take Notre Dame minus 5.5. Nate, which way are you leaning here?
I'm going Notre Dame. You mentioned it. Clemson fumbled twice, like inside the 10-yard line versus Duke, and Duke has played literally nobody else. They played Northwestern, Lafayette, and then just another horrific team as well. I like what Elko's doing there. I think, like you mentioned, he's going to be up for jobs soon. But this Notre Dame team is still light years ahead of what Duke is, and they're better than Clemson. And I think it being in prime time, having game day there, kind of will help them, with the valley of what happened last weekend. It kind of gets them back up. Like if this was like a noon game, I'd be like, okay, how are you going to get up for a noon game at Duke? Like that's a little bit tougher, but prime time, national TV, things of that nature can kind of help elevate the team. And 5.5, I worry. Spencer Schrader, former USF kicker, 3 for 7 on the year. Buddy needs to get it together. 0 for 2 from 40 to 49 yards, but he's hit 250 plus yarders. We gotta see more out of you. They've switched holders this week, so hopefully that helps. But that's the one thing that kind of worries me. Like if it's kind of close and Schrader's got to go out there for a kick, and he hasn't been good in like 2 years. So.
Vito, where are you going on this one?
Ooh, man, that's rough on Spencer Schrader. I didn't realize that part until you mentioned it. I like Duke here. I don't know. You're right. It's a primetime game. I mean, yeah, back-to-back game days for Duke. For Notre Dame rather. I just think that handsome Sam Hartman's going to go ahead and put up some points on this Duke team. One thing when I was looking at this game, Riley Leonard, who, really good quarterback for Duke, only has 2 touchdowns on the year. 2 passing touchdowns in the year. Just seems very strange when seemingly is putting up some numbers. Sam Hartman has 14 touchdowns, over 1,200 yards passing the ball. I think a steady regimen of Audric Estime, Sam Hartman throwing it, it's just going to be too much for Duke. This has like 42-17 written all over it, if you ask me. I think Notre Dame's going to roll with this one, so I like them minus 5.5. I'm curious about this game. It's going to be fun because I want to see how good Duke really is and how good Mike Elko is. But Notre Dame's just too good, and they're going to want to try to get some. They know they can't lose many more if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. So I think they're going to go ahead and put it on Duke here.
Nick, where are you leaning on this one?
I am actually going to stay away from the spread. I'm going to go with the under here. I think this is the worst possible game Notre Dame could play after last week, going into a jacked up environment with a really good Duke team that's they are ranked 24th in SP Plus, and people thought it was a fluke last year, but you look at their turnover margin numbers, and they're still near the top of the nation in turnover margins. And I think Elko, in his strategy, is he's going to muck this game up. And that's going to be the only chance Duke will have to actually win this game. And also keep in mind that this Duke staff, they're familiar with Sam Hartman. They beat him last year, and that was a high-scoring game. I don't think this game will be that high-scoring. So, yeah, man, I'm just going to stick with the under.
Yeah, I think that's a good lean there. All right, now, so we've got now we're going off the board here. So kind of dealer's choice, whatever you like. I'll lead off. Let me see. I got it written down here. I'm going to go with Texas State as a 6-point favorite on the road at Southern Miss. Give me Texas State. Southern Miss has been pretty decent on defense in terms of success rate, but their EPA number is really bad. That means they give up a lot of explosives, and Texas State has been one of the most explosive offenses in the country. Southern Miss gave up 44 points to Arkansas State last week. So I'm going to kind of ride, even though it's on the road, and this is, I think, the first time out of Texas for Texas State. I'm going to ride with them -6 in that new offense. Nate, where are you going off the board here? What do you like?
Tell you what, Seth, I'll give you a deal. I'll give you 5.5 instead because that's what the line is now.
I was moved to 5.5. Deal.
Yeah.
Even better.
On DraftKings, right?
That's the only one.
On DraftKings and across the board, but yes.
Fantastic. Well. Okay. That's the only book we look at here.
We'll take it at 5. That's right. We'll take 5.5. Nathan, where are you going?
I'm going USC -21.5 at Colorado. I think USC is just going to bomb them again. They're in for a rude awakening.
Personal.
And this one's going to get out of hand, I think.
Yeah, I think that's moved down, hasn't it? It didn't open at like 24 or 25.
Oh, I don't know. I
think
saw
it opened
21.
higher.
I
couldn't believe. Yeah, I couldn't believe it was at 21.5. So I like that. I'm with you on that one. I like that one a lot. Steeg, let's hear it. Last week you took the USF Bulls as a 2.5-point underdog, and they won outright. Are you going back to the well?
Nah, I stay away from Navy. I stay away from the military academies as much as you possibly can. I know you're going to pin one of them on me at some point, and I hate it. I was perusing through, and this one stuck out to me with some injury news of dropped recently. Texas A&M is a 6-point favorite on the road against Arkansas. I like Arkansas, especially with Connor Redmond not being out.
I think that is a neutral site game, just for reference. That's a Jerry roll. That's a Jerry Jones.
Oh, it is a Jerry roll. Yeah. Google lied to me. It says Texas A&M at Arkansas. So, Google's a liar. But I still like Arkansas here.
A 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I don't not much of a believer in Max Johnson. I know he played well in relief for Connor Redmond when he went out. Yeah, right. Max Johnson over there.
Brad Johnson's son, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think that this Texas A&M team is very inspired, despite their record. I just don't love them. And I think Arkansas, who's had a pretty good against LSU last week, pretty good go at it. I think they're looking for some positive momentum here. So give me the Razorbacks. Give me Pig Suey.
I like it. Vito, where are you going? Do you have another sicko pick this week, or are you going a little more mainstream?
Nah, I'm going to go a little more mainstream, but we're going to go out west because I'm a big fan of what Kalen DeBoer is doing out in Washington, and I like Washington, Arizona over 67. I think this game's going to be pointsy, and I think Washington's going to put up a bunch. Michael Penix Jr. is going to have a day, but I do kind of like this. I like what the Arizona offense has been doing as well. So I think Washington wants to win in a track meet, is completely okay with that, and they gave up a lot of points to Cal last week, but it didn't matter. They're that good of a team. I would love to see this Washington team compete for the Pac-12 title. As much as I feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State, I do think Washington is one of those teams that is extremely good. But they gave up 32 points to Cal last week. Doesn't matter. They put up 59. Who really cares? I think something like that's going to happen in Arizona. So give me over 67. I want to point the game.
Is DeLora still the quarterback at Arizona? Is he healthy?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. He is questionable.
He's
Fellas,
tough, man.
We might be making a mistake here, but it's okay. I think Washington can still put up 59 points.
They might get there by themselves, Vito.
Yeah, it might get close. I just think overs are more fun to bet than unders because voting unders is lame and for nerds. Just kidding. All right, I'm just a big fan of the Huskies this year.
Yeah, they've been quietly unbelievable. I think they're leader in a bunch of different team strength metrics. They've been really, really good. So yeah, I think betting on their offense is probably a good call. Nick, where are you going off the board here?
I'm also going out west for the last game that will kick off this week. I am going Fresno State minus 24.5 against Nevada. Our old friend Mikey Keene has been really, really good at Fresno State. Through 4 games, he has over 1,200 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's been great. Fresno's been great. They're, I think, at this point, the G5 front runner for that New Year's 6 spot. And plus, Nevada, they'll be playing a Nevada team that may be the worst team in FBS. There's a couple of other contenders, but they're definitely down there. I think Fresno just completely buries the worst team in the Mountain West this year. So just hammer it with the Bulldogs out there.
Yeah, they're like a year early because they would be fun to watch in the playoff next year because they've beaten 2 Power 5 teams, right? Fresno has. They beat Purdue. That's right. Wasn't there another one?
Hang on. And A-State, Arizona State, they beat them.
Yeah, so that's a fun team out there. Colin, do you have something you like this week?
I got a bunch I like.
What's your bet of the week?
I got a bunch here. First of all, that USC line, yeah, you're right. It crept up to 25 this week. It's back down to 21.5. So people just keep piling on this Colorado team and Dion, despite what happened last week. It's just wild. That's just crazy. Says
Vegas make that money.
Vegas get paid. I've bet 1 game this week so far. So what happens is, unfortunately, is because as Nick is aware, we have the lines that come out, and I can't really jump on top of the first ones that get out there. Sometimes I get stuck with a little bit of a late line move, and I've got to adjust my things during the week. There's 1 line this week that jumped out at me pretty quickly. I had USF on my board as a pick. I thought the beloved alma mater would be about 2.5, 3 points better than Navy on a neutral field. And so I figured home field advantage would be a pick. Comes out at 2. Which I go, okay. I can see where that's coming from. Navy coming off a bye week. I can kind of see it. And then it gets bet up to 4 almost instantly. And then I finally get around to getting all my stuff done, and I get, I do all my stuff on Sunday, and I enter them all in. It's 4.5. It's 4.5. USF plus 4.5. What? What are these guys? They did terrible, y'all. Did anyone watch the Notre Dame game? Did anyone watch Seth Hennigan shit himself on national television last week? Navy sucks. They ain't played nobody, Paul. And don't tell me the Wagner Seahawks matter. I'm sorry. I do not like where Navy is going here. They fired one of the best coaches in college football. I don't understand what the thought process is here. And let's just look at some of these numbers, okay? Navy, 1 and 2. By the way, Brian Newberry would love to get away from the triple. The one problem is with getting away from the triple is when you have no talent trying to win football games. They keep taking these deep shots down the field, down the ladder. They keep trying to go over the middle. They keep trying to do stupid shit. They're trying to change who they are. Be who you are, Navy. Be the triple team. Be Paul Johnson. Be Ken Niumatalolo. This team's bad. They're really bad. They've gotten away with murder so far because Seth Hannigan. And by the way, look at that Memphis score. Memphis scored fumbled the ball on the +1 yard line to go up 2 scores. They would have walked away with it. They would have covered the 13.5 most likely. That fumble, Navy comes back on the field to get a drive. Is the whole thing. Ignore that. Ignore that result. That is Memphis playing bad more than Navy playing good. I took 4.5 years to get. It's 3.5. I don't care. I'd take it a pick. USF's going to win this week. We're going to win this week. We're going to win next week too. This team's good. Defense. And then they hit people.
We're going to UConn, and we'll be on site for when USF clinches bowl eligibility.
You coming?
Maybe we'll see. We'll see what we'll see how the membership drive goes this next week.
I thought that was a bit of a news drop there. Dang, I love that monologue by Colin. That was hilarious because I'm kind of with you there, but I generally don't want to stick. I don't want to bet USF anymore. I'm like,
what I think the
Peter, go ahead and make sure you clip that when you're editing the pod, just to make sure that we have that readily available because Colin's reverse jinx
one way or the
is
other
just going to work flawlessly.
Absolutely. I'm going to timestamp the heck out of that.
Look, USF has problems. USF has problems defensively. They don't tackle real well in space, and they, cover-wise, guys can get behind them. They have, but up front 4, front 5, they get pushed against teams in this league. They're not. The fact that they were getting pushed against Alabama should tell you all that you need to know. The talent is there. These guys are fired up. They're winning at the point of attack. Navy's different, of course. We all know Navy's different, but they're running less triple than they ever have. They're trying to get away from triple. That just plays right in USF's hands. They're going to make mistakes. I don't think USF just wins. I think they kind of run away with this.
And Navy's defense, 121st in success rate, 118th in pass success rate, 104th in rushing success rate.
And we also what Notre Dame did to them. And then that is against a Memphis team that was literally shitting itself on national television. They were terrible, and they still got away with it.
Yeah. So I almost went there too. I just don't, if you can get, but the on the road at a weird, funky scheme team always scares me a little bit. But I don't think they have anybody that can run with USF's receivers. So if you can kind of protect it, and they're not really good at generating pressure, you might be able to get some of those shots again this week. But
Byron Brown is not Seth Hennigan. We will not make these mistakes. We will throw the ball down the field. We will score. We will score repeatedly. It's going to be there. The shots will be there. I'm telling you.
That's AAC leading rusher Byron Brown
to you.
Yeah, that is the nation's leading rushing quarterback, Byron Brown. And by the way, when it breaks down, he can take off too.
So let's review. We've got we were split on Oregon State, Utah rather. Me, Vito, and Steve all have Oregon State -3.5. Nate, Nick, and even Colin here have Utah +3.5. Everybody's got LSU -2.5. We've got 3. Myself, Nate, and Vito have Notre Dame -5.5. Steve has Duke +5.5. Nick has the under 52 there. Then off the board, I've got Texas State -5.5 at Southern Miss. Nate's got USC -21.5 at Colorado. Vito, Washington's elite offense and Arizona's fun offense over 67. Nick, top G5 team, Fresno State -24.5 against Nevada. And Steve has Arkansas +6 in Jerry World with no Connor Wegman. And Colin has the USF Bulls +3.5 on the road at Navy. So thank you for watching. Please leave a comment, leave a like, help us gain the YouTube algorithm here. Thank you for watching.